I think the one I enjoyed reading more than anything else.
Gentlemen, it's a huge pleasure to welcome you all, writers, publishers, and book lovers.
At 72, a former royal maid is finally speaking out about Camilla. After decades behind palace doors, watching and keeping quiet, she's ready to reveal what really went on behind closed doors. Was Camilla as heartless as the rumors claimed, or surprisingly kind when no one was looking? Join us as we uncover the true nature of Queen Camilla. The shocking revelation from a former palace maid. For more than 40 years, she didn't talk about her experiences. She cleaned fancy lamps, organized fancy sheets, and moved around fancy estates without anyone noticing. She was taught to be unseen, quiet, and reliable. However, now, at the age of 72, this ex-maid who used to work in prestigious palaces has decided to share her story. Her revelations about Queen Camilla have shocked many people. This is not the voice of someone who writes for a tabloid or a gossip column. Instead, this is the voice of a woman who has quietly observed history happening. She started working for the royal family in the late 1970s and stayed long enough to see marriages, scandals, and Camilla becoming Queen Consort. She used to stay silent while others talked. During the Diana and Camilla conflict, she didn't take a side. Instead of getting caught up in royal gossip, she focused on her work. Now she feels that age has given her the courage to speak up. She no longer hides the truth and is ready to share her experiences. Her current statements are important because of this. Many people were surprised by what she disclosed about Queen Camilla. She had been observing Camilla for years, and her description painted a more intricate picture than what the public had assumed. It's not a story of a cruel or distant person, nor is it a simplistic tale of kindness. Instead, she reveals something more authentic and, in some ways, more surprising. She recalls a side of Camilla that the public never witnessed. This Camilla was calm and cautious in her speech and actions when appearing in public. However, behind closed doors, she appeared to be more assertive than people realized. She possessed the ability to navigate social situations gracefully, ease tensions, and resolve issues without needing to raise her voice. What stood out to the maid the most was not Camilla's charm or self-assurance, but something different. She says that Camilla had a special skill in making people forget who was in charge. When she entered the room, she appeared calm and normal. However, just with a few looks and short conversations, she could influence events in her favor. Even before marrying Charles, Camilla was already moving around the palace with determination. The staff paid close attention to her, and orders and schedules would change. This was not because Camilla was demanding, but because she made others want to live up to her expectations without even saying anything. The public was surprised to hear this information. Some people believed that Camilla just went along with what Charles wanted, stayed to herself, or tried to stay out of the spotlight. However, the maid reveals that Camilla had a stronger presence than people realized. She was always observing, analyzing, and strategizing, even though she appeared quiet. Instead of making noise or expressing dissatisfaction, she quietly advanced, taking one step at a time until she became Charles' wife and stood by his side as the future queen. The maid clarifies that she is sharing her story without resentment. She is not seeking retaliation or recognition. All she wants is to share her truth. What sets her story apart is its contrast with the many loud voices that have tried to shape Camilla's image. It is not a tale of scandal or excitement. Rather, it is a gentle account that says, "This is what I witnessed, and it has stayed with me." During her many years working as a maid, the speaker rarely saw Camilla lose her composure. However, what did surprise her was Camilla's significant influence, even before she became a queen. While others were getting caught up in emotions and stress, Camilla remained calm and composed. She took cautious actions, spoke minimally, and gradually established her presence in the royal circle. The maid believes that these qualities are what made Camilla stand out and be remembered. But how did this maid know the queen so well? How long has she been serving the royal family? Life inside the palace walls. She had never intended to work for royalty. Her early life was ordinary and peaceful, completely removed from the world of kings and palaces. However, destiny had other plans for her. What began as an opportunity to work in one of Britain's most luxurious homes transformed into years of serving in the royal household. A life that was hard to fathom, characterized by strict rules, quietness, and always being alert. She started her journey in her early 20s while living in a small village with her parents, where she had learned housekeeping skills. A friend informed her about a job opportunity at a royal residence and convinced her to apply, even though she was doubtful about her chances. After a few weeks, she found herself entering the peaceful halls of the royal staff quarters with just a suitcase and quiet shoes. From then on, she lived a life that was seldom spoken about and never entirely revealed. Her first responsibilities consisted of basic chores like cleaning valuable vases, shining mirrors, and putting fresh flowers in all the rooms. However, nothing in the palace was easy. Every action needed to be precise and accurate. There were specific methods for folding, greeting, and disappearing. She soon realized that staying out of sight was crucial. The more invisible she was, the more successful she was considered to be. It wasn't about receiving compliments or acknowledgement, it was about flawlessly executing tasks without drawing attention to oneself. She didn't receive a lot of information, but she observed everything closely. The royal household was complex, with various people and roles to understand. Some senior staff members were knowledgeable about everything. The guards appeared serious and rarely smiled. The cooks made meals that she never got to try. Each person had their responsibilities. Any errors made were not forgotten. Gradually, she got used to the daily routine in the palace. The early mornings, the peaceful evenings, and constant cleaning to keep everything spotless. The thing that startled her the most was how organized everything was. There were specific ways to talk, stand, hand over items, or adjust a pillow. There was no need to guess. She had to keep track of who went into each room, what time each family member wanted tea, and who liked quiet conversations. She adjusted, got better, and earned trust. Over time, her responsibilities grew bigger. She started working in areas near where important royal figures lived, quietly moving around. During this time, she frequently found herself close to Charles. Initially, he was still the Prince of Wales, constantly occupied with paperwork and meetings. She observed how the atmosphere in a room would change when he walked in, becoming either lighter or heavier, depending on his mood. She made a point not to stay too long, but she recalled every little thing. After some time, Camilla started showing up more frequently. At first, she didn't have much influence, but her impact increased over time. The maid noticed that Camilla would enter rooms peacefully and bring a sense of calmness. She wasn't pushy or bossy. Instead, she appeared to be a good listener and observer. The staff took some time to get used to her, unsure of her relationship with Charles. However, as time passed, the maid observed that Camilla's visits became longer, and her role in the household changed from guest to partner. Even though she was close to the royal family, the maid never truly felt like she belonged. Her role was to serve quietly, without asking questions or speaking out of turn. This meant changing bedsheets, picking up clothes, and making sure everything appeared untouched, even if it had been used. Her daily tasks had a steady routine that continued even during important occasions or personal family time. She treated holidays, weddings, and quiet mornings with equal attention and care. She continued on because she valued discipline and taking pride in her work, even without recognition. She wasn't seeking attention, just wanting to maintain her position and do her job effectively. Over the years, she witnessed changes in generations, guests, and titles, but her role remained constant in the background. She worked tirelessly for many years, always staying within the limits established from the beginning. She held on to confidential information, valued people's privacy, and played a vital role in maintaining the smooth operation of the royal household. Very few people could recall her name. However, she was constantly present, just behind the luxurious curtains, just a step away from the door. Moments from behind palace doors. When she first met Camilla, the atmosphere of the palace seemed different to her. It wasn't a big event or a noisy entrance. It was a simple encounter, a quiet step in the hallway, a polite greeting to a staff member, a soft-spoken voice. Camilla wasn't officially part of the royal family yet, but she carried herself with confidence, not needing to assert her place. The maid, a longtime servant of the palace, observed Camilla closely. She had witnessed many people come and go, but there was something about Camilla that caught her attention right away. Not flashy or assertive, but quietly confident. Camilla didn't walk into the room like she didn't belong. She seemed comfortable and moved gracefully without hurrying or unsure movements. She was polite, but not overly chatty. She treated the staff with respect, but didn't go out of her way to win them over. She seemed to recognize that everything ran smoothly because of the quiet, diligent workers. She acknowledged them with eye contact, a gentle smile, and then continued on her way without causing a scene. This is what set her apart from others. As she spent more time participating in royal activities, her position in the palace changed. Initially, just making occasional visits, she eventually started being there regularly. The staff observed how things shifted to accommodate her without her having to give orders. The layout of rooms changed slightly. Her preferences influenced decisions, and schedules were adjusted to suit her. She was able to impact her surroundings in a gentle manner. She didn't have to tell people what to do. They naturally adapted to meet her needs. The maid observed how Camilla always stayed true to herself. She didn't pretend to be someone else or imitate royal behavior. She maintained a calm and steady demeanor, despite who she was with. Even when she was nervous or unsure, she never displayed it. Her composure was her source of strength. Camilla didn't need to attract attention with loud energy when she entered a room, but people always noticed her presence. As time passed, her quiet confidence made a bigger impact than many had anticipated. Camilla was skilled at sensing the atmosphere in a room. She knew when to talk and when to listen quietly. She had a knack for knowing what people required, even without them expressing it. The staff recognized her approach and respected her limits. She wasn't too friendly, but she wasn't unfriendly either. She viewed them as part of the team, not below it. She had high expectations, but didn't get upset if things weren't flawless. Instead, she adapted, which motivated the staff to meet her expectations. Many people were taken aback by her personality when they only knew her from a distance. While some thought she might be unfriendly or harsh, the maid perceived her as a deeper individual. She didn't constantly strive to be popular. She would have times of contemplation, occasionally appearing distant as if she was keeping something to herself. She wasn't looking for attention, but she also wasn't avoiding it. It seemed like she had realized early on that being silent could have more impact than being outspoken. This quality set her apart from others in the spotlight. As she became more prominent in the royal family, her impact also increased. However, it wasn't about having power in the usual way. It was about the way she commanded attention when she walked into a room. The way some staff members were more attentive when getting things ready for her visit. She didn't give orders, things just happened the way she liked because people understood her preferences. This natural influence set her apart. She didn't strive for control. She gained it effortlessly without having to request it. The maid observed how others reacted to Camilla. Some were hesitant and unsure about how to interact with her initially. However, as time passed, people realized that she wasn't trying to assert dominance. She gradually integrated herself into the royal circles without being pushy. Although her approach was not extravagant, it was resolute. She held her opinions but expressed them in a subtle manner. She offered suggestions instead of issuing ultimatums. As a result, those around her started to hold her in higher esteem. As time went by, Camilla felt at home in the palace. She didn't make a big entrance or demand attention. Instead, she brought a sense of calm that slowly improved the atmosphere. Longtime staff members began to see a positive change in the environment. There was a noticeable decrease in tension in the rooms, and routines became more efficient. People felt less afraid of making mistakes and had more freedom to work carefully. But what do you think about Diana and Camilla? Is there a possibility that we were wrong? Diana and Camilla through the eyes of the quiet ones. The royal family always carried themselves with elegance, tradition, and quietness. Staff members worked diligently behind the scenes, following strict routines and keeping their emotions in check. However, even in a place where people are expected to be composed, the impact of certain individuals can still be felt. A maid who had worked in the royal household for years witnessed the entrance of two women. Diana and Camilla. Each woman had a distinct way of commanding a room, affecting the atmosphere, and influencing the people around them. When Diana first entered the royal family, she brought a sense of joy and freshness. She was youthful, energetic, and inquisitive. She made people feel important. While she didn't always adhere to traditional protocols, she was friendly and sincere. Her presence was like a breath of fresh air to the staff. She frequently smiled, inquired about things, and recalled names. For those working tirelessly in silence, her simple acts of kindness were priceless. However, along with her kindness, Diana also displayed sadness. She did not conceal her emotions. Her happiness could be felt throughout the palace, while her distress caused a somber atmosphere. Her emotions had a strong presence that affected the entire staff. They could perceive her mood even before engaging with her. Some days were cheerful, while others were challenging. Despite the ups and downs, Diana was someone they respected and wanted to support, not just out of obligation, but because they genuinely cared for her. Camilla arrived later, and in a unique manner. She didn't create a buzz of excitement, but rather entered with a sense of calm. She didn't crave attention and kept her emotions to herself. The staff saw her as composed, reserved, and reliable. She rarely smiled, but when she did, it seemed genuine. She wasn't one to pry into others' lives or make personal remarks, yet she wasn't unfriendly. She maintained a sense of reserved distance. It was evident that she respected the rules and didn't disrupt them. The maid recalled the atmosphere of unease in the palace when Charles, Diana, and Camilla were all involved in the same story. It wasn't openly discussed, but everyone could feel it. Doors were closed more gently. Conversations were brief, and there was less laughter. Staff members exchanged glances and stayed silent when certain names were brought up. Loyalty was demonstrated quietly, and nobody felt comfortable expressing their thoughts openly. It was understood that everyone had to stay neutral, even when tensions were running high. Awkward situations arose when the staff were unsure how to act. When both Diana and Camilla were around, even if they didn't meet, it was tough to hide their feelings. The staff who had formed a bond with Diana found it difficult to get used to Camilla's presence. It wasn't that they didn't like her, but they had to adjust to the change. Diana had been open with them, while Camilla was more reserved. It took them a while to get used to the new dynamic. Over time, the maid noticed something interesting. Each woman had a unique type of strength. Diana's strength was in her honesty, her emotions, and her desire for connection. Camilla's strength was in her calmness, self-control, and ability to move on without seeking pity. Both women had their struggles and coping mechanisms, and both, in their ways, gained the staff's silent admiration. Life inside the palace was all about observing without speaking. For the maid and others in similar positions, it wasn't about picking sides. It was about carrying out their duties respectfully, no matter who was around. However, memories remain of the gentle looks, the quiet atmosphere, and the anticipation for change. Princess Diana's presence was raw with emotion, while Camilla's felt controlled yet powerful. Both women left a lasting impact on the palace and those who worked there, not just in terms of historical significance, but also in their hearts. Camilla in the moments no one knew. In the grand halls of the royal palace, many things are witnessed, and even more are concealed. Each day, employees moved around silently, remained unseen, and harbored hidden secrets. The maid who worked there for a long time turned those secrets into memories, personal moments that influenced her perception of the esteemed individuals the world idolized from a distance. One of them, Camilla, now Queen Consort, stood out not for her public statements, but for the subtle ways she conducted herself in private. Her true essence was gradually unveiled, not through speeches or actions, but through the unnoticed moments in between. The maid had a vivid memory of a specific moment. It was during an early winter evening when most of the royal staff were following their usual routines. Camilla arrived unexpectedly at one of the residences, entering quietly without causing any commotion. Her schedule had been changed last minute, catching many off guard by her early arrival. While adjusting a vase of flowers in the hallway, the maid suddenly came face to face with Camilla. Instead of just walking by, Camilla stopped and politely requested a cup of tea, but not for herself. She explained that she had a guest in the drawing room, an elderly friend who was not feeling well. The request was made with kindness and empathy, showing her genuine concern for someone in need. She did not give orders or seek attention. She simply wanted to offer care to someone in a quiet and compassionate manner, beyond what any news headline could depict. However, there were other instances that showcased the strength behind her soft-spoken demeanor. One day, while getting ready for a big dinner, tensions were running high in the kitchen due to a minor timing error messing up the entire flow. When Camilla was told that the meal would be delayed, many were prepared for her reaction. But instead of getting upset, she remained calm. She entered the kitchen not to scold, but to observe. She gave a small smile, stayed composed, and went back to her room without complaining. It wasn't her silence that surprised the maid, but her self-control. The ability to maintain grace, even in the face of adversity, spoke volume, more than any royal event ever could. However, not every moment was ideal. The maid recalled a day when tensions ran high. It was a lengthy afternoon, filled with unexpected guests and interruptions. Camilla, who is typically calm, briefly lost her temper with a staff member who misunderstood the guest list. The incident was resolved quickly, and later, Camilla privately apologized. It demonstrated that even people who appear collected can be pushed to their limits. But what resonated with the maid wasn't the outburst. It was how Camilla took accountability afterward, when no one was around. That left a lasting impact. The connection between Charles and Camilla developed through subtle looks, quiet moments, and small actions that went unnoticed by outsiders. They had a natural way of interacting with each other, showing a level of comfort that had built up over time. The maid noticed how Charles would often check with Camilla before reacting in certain situations, and how she would occasionally touch his arm as they walked past each other. These gestures were not flashy, but rather small indications of their strong, deep bond that had grown silently and with mutual understanding. On a quiet afternoon, the couple took a break from their royal duties and relaxed in a private sitting room. Camilla had her shoes off and was reading a newspaper with her feet tucked beneath her. Charles was sipping tea and quietly asked her something. The maid came into the room to tidy up, but went unnoticed at first. At that moment, they shared a genuine laugh, different from their usual camera-ready smiles. The laughter was soft, relaxed, and genuinely warm. This simple moment revealed more about their relationship than any official portrait ever could. Camilla sometimes liked to be by herself. This would typically happen during holidays or after she had been out in public for a long time. She enjoyed taking peaceful walks in the garden or sitting alone in the library with a book. The maid would frequently come across her sitting quietly, lost in thought. These instances revealed a more reserved side of Camilla, who the world often viewed as aloof. Camilla was not one to easily share her feelings, but when she was quietly reflecting, she displayed a depth to her personality. Reflecting on the past, the maid realized that her opinion of Camilla had evolved as time went on. Initial assumptions were replaced with comprehension. The person she had previously found intriguing transformed into someone she admired. This admiration was not based on Camilla's status, but on her behavior when she thought no one was observing. So, what does she have to say about Camilla's rise to becoming queen? A maid's reflections on Camilla's rise. The maid had watched many people enter the royal doors. Some came and went without anyone noticing. Others stayed and made a lasting impact. No one made a bigger impression than Camilla, who arrived quietly and became Queen Consort. The maid, now in her 70s, remembered it all, keeping quiet memories from years of being in the background. When Camilla first joined the royal family, it was not with fanfare or parties. People were uncertain about her role and how to interact with her. She was mindful of Princess Diana's legacy and tiptoed into the spotlight. Some palace staff were quiet or hesitant, but the maid observed that Camilla was not trying to assert herself. She was cautious in her approach and seemed to recognize the delicate balance she needed to maintain. Over time, the maid noticed Camilla becoming more at ease. Camilla was always understated and not showy. Her progress was gradual but certain. As time passed, she took on more responsibilities, attended more gatherings, and eventually became Charles's companion. The maid observed that power did not alter Camilla's character, it just uncovered her true self. Camilla's quiet strength came from her composure and ability to remain steady amid chaos. Wearing the crown did not change her, it just made her existing qualities more apparent. Even though the public had varying opinions, things were less complicated inside the palace. The maid noticed the contrast between the public persona of the woman and her private demeanor. While there were debates outside, Camilla focused on her work, showing up and remaining calm. She didn't try to show off or assert dominance, opting instead for a quiet confidence. She didn't seek admiration, but earned it gradually through her steady and caring approach. Many people viewed her in extreme ways, either as too gentle or too tough, too aloof or too involved. However, the maid understood that Camilla was not extreme in any of these traits. She was well-balanced. Camilla knew when to listen, when to take action, and never went beyond what felt right. This equilibrium made her dependable, even during times of unpredictability. One memory that stood out for the maid was the day Camilla became queen. Camilla's behavior showed no surprises. She carried herself with the new title as if she had been waiting for it. She didn't appear proud or unsure, but rather prepared. The maid, observing from afar, felt a sense of pride. It wasn't about Camilla becoming queen, but how she did it gracefully without stepping on others. The transition from being a mistress to becoming a queen consort could have been overwhelming for someone who is not as composed. It needed patience, strength, and the resilience to endure criticism without holding a grudge. The maid witnessed Camilla experience all of this, and yet she remained composed. Camilla's capacity to handle criticism without retaliation, to remain compassionate without appearing feeble, defined her reputation more than any royal title. Now, as the wife of the king, Camilla was seen in a new way. However, to the maid who had observed her closely, this was just the final stage of a journey she had taken cautiously. She had always been careful not to hurry or attract attention. Instead, she remained constant. It was her consistency that gave her strength. In today's monarchy, where customs change and demands increase, Camilla brought something unique: calmness. Camilla is more of a listener than a talker. Although she may not have immediately won over everyone's affection, she gradually earned their quiet admiration. The maid understood that it is not necessary to be outspoken in order to lead. Sometimes, silent strength is the most powerful of all. She wants the younger royals to learn patience, kindness, consistency, and authenticity in royal life instead of focusing on perfection. She believes that while titles may be permanent, acts of grace are what truly leave a lasting impression. It is important for the younger royals to understand that how they treat others, such as staff and visitors, is remembered, and the public appreciates honesty more than anything else. Despite their curiosity about the royal family, she wants the public to know that not everything written is true, and not all truths are harsh. Some truths can be gentle and understanding. Camilla's journey was cautious and deliberate, as she didn't hurry or try too hard to be liked. She just continued on calmly. To someone who observed her daily, her consistent grace was the most important thing. The maid is now moving on to a new chapter in her life. Her days of serving royalty are over, but the memories remain close to her heart. These memories are not vivid, but rather gentle and filled with meaningful moments. She takes pride in not only her actions, but also in what she witnessed and recalls. Keeping these stories to herself for a long time, she now feels a sense of relief and weight lifted off her shoulders as she shares them with others. She doesn't seek praise, as she finds fulfillment in being honest in a gentle way. Instead of criticism, she provides understanding in her final thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.